You're tuning in to the Kickback podcasts with the Meister.
Hello everyone and welcome to the podcast. As you're aware, this is podcast number 1, so go easy on me. In this podcast, I'll be introducing myself, giving you a rundown of who I am. Every week I'll be covering various topics such as stress, anxiety, depression. I'll also be covering motivation, goal setting, and so forth. I'll be talking about personal experiences and how I overcome them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, of course. If you would like me to talk about a specific topic or subject, please post a suggestion in the comments, or if you want to stay anonymous, you can send me a private message. I hope these podcasts will bring light to someone's day, but also help them think outside the box, hopefully give them an understanding of who they are and what they want in life. So my name is Jake, I'm 27 years old. I've been thinking about doing podcasts for a while, just haven't had a chance to get around to them. I'm a young family man, working, but also COVID's been a bit of a shit fight on everyone's life, but this is where we've got to get through it. So depression seems to be a big thing happening at the moment, and it's really tearing families apart and marriages are breaking up and so forth. But there's got to be ways where you can stay strong, stay positive, and try and keep an active mind. For me, as an example, I've built a home gym, so every night I try and come outside after my kids have gone to bed and try and have a workout, have time to myself, time to think, time to evaluate my life, which is something very important that everyone should do. But also during the day, I try and keep busy around the house. If it's not to do with the kids, it's either cooking, cleaning, maintenance around the house. There's always something that can be done. There's no need to fall into a trap, as I've been there before, and it's not a good thing. Not due to COVID, but for other reasons. The way I overcome them is not just speaking to a counsellor or a psychiatrist, but it's also accepting that you are depressed, you are stressed, or you do have anxiety. First, speak to your GP. Friends and family are good to speak to, but they can only do so much. Would you ask your brother, sister, uncle, dad, best friend, or whoever to fix your car, or would you take it to a mechanic? As I say, it's better to pay the money and speak to a professional who can give you the guidance and advice needed to get you better, because mental illness is a big thing, and it tends to play a big role in suicides and breakups of families, and causes people to go into a negative mental state. So, to begin with, what happened with me? So I had a passing in the family, which I didn't take very easy, as it was my first death in the family. It was my grandfather, 25, 6 years old. You can say it's pretty good, but I still thought it was unfair. Died of a heart attack unexpectedly. So, my life spiraled out of control until I come to a point where I realized I can't do this anymore. It was really hard, really tough. I ended up seeking help from family members, parents, mum, dad, partner, people who want to be supportive of what you want to do. So, ended up going to the doctors, speaking to them about what I want to do. Depends on where you are. In Australia, you sit down, you do a psychological test, and it's out of 50. So I scored 42 out of 50, which is severely depressed. So fair enough, I accept that. I'm going to be a man about it. When I'm booked in, look for places. You want to book into somewhere where you feel confident, where you feel right at home, where you feel like there's a sense of going there and a sense of relief going there, and that you get something out of it. So I was looking on Google a lot of places around the area of Sydney, and reading reviews, reading about all the psychiatrists, the psychologists, or counsellors, whatever you want to call them. So you read about them, read the understanding, and try and work out like if they're going to be a benefit of you. Some people like to talk to female, some people like to talk to male. That's personal preference, but to me it didn't matter. I just wanted to talk to someone who understood what was going on in my mind and try and work out the Rubik's Cube that's going on inside my head. So that was first step. So once that's happened, I ended up booking my first session. First session went pretty well, very emotional, They try and unlock everything in your brain. It goes usually longer. Usually sessions are about 55 minutes to an hour. Mine went for about 2.5 hours. So it's a very emotional time, but afterwards you feel a lot better. They write down their notes and what you've told them, etc., etc. But also they want to get deep inside your head to know what you're thinking, what your thoughts are, if there's any actions for the future or the past, and stuff like that. So they get really into you. It could be scary for some people, intimidating, a bit emotional for me, might be for you, but it's very well worth it. So after that session, you can book in every day, every week, every fortnight, whatever it may be. So I was every fortnight to start off with. So the second session, they give you at the end of the first session, second session, third session, whatever it may be, they give you a task to do. Like, for example, instead of seeing the darkness in the world, try and see the light in the world. Like, if it's overcast, it's going to be gloomy, your day's going to be sad. Try and look at, theoretically, bright flowers if it's spring, or the green grass, or a colourful house, or something that brings joy to your life. So that was task number one. So I've tried to do that. Gone away for 2 weeks and done that successfully. After 2 weeks, come back to the counsellor and spoke about the past 2 weeks, how it was. Yeah, still didn't cope. It was still hard. Whatever. You're not going to get fixed on the first or second visit. Let me tell you that. You're definitely not going to get fixed on the first or second visit. It's more of a mental game. You got to keep going. You got to keep showing up. You got to get involved. You're going to get most out of it. So that's what you got to do. So second session come. Try to discuss different situations on how to deal with it. So then session number 2 went for an hour. Different ways of dealing with it. So I went home. Mind you, all my sessions, I had about 11 sessions. Each went for 2 weeks, with 2-week gap in between, all about an hour. So after the 11th session, before I get back to that, so you get through the 3rd, 4th, 5th session. By about the 5th or 6th session, they start getting more into you and start making sense of an understanding of why you're thinking like that, why the thoughts are like that, why your thought process is happening in that way. So you start to understand not just exactly what they're saying, but what you're thinking, which is really amazing if you ask me. So they're giving you all these explanations and all these different definitions on why you're thinking like that, and I come to think that's a really good way. It might be hard, like I said earlier, intimidating, stressful, might get anxiety, it might be like crying or whatever the situation might be, but I highly recommend. It's a very good process to go to. Like, as I say, like, your friends and family will always be there, but they're the ones who don't understand what you're going through. They're the ones that are going to be like, it's alright, mate, or it's alright, it'll get better. But that's the best advice they're going to give you. You're better off speaking to a professional and seeking a professional's help. So then you take on the advice of the psychologist, counsellor. You go home, you get through all your sessions. They've picked your brain out and have told you what's wrong with you, why you're thinking like that, and they give you a big understanding of how you're feeling and why you're feeling the way you are. So you go back home for that 2 weeks or so, and you reflect on it, and then every fortnight or every week, whatever it may be for you, you go back and you discuss them. How's life for the 2 weeks? How's your parents? How's your friends? How's your family? How's work? How did you deal with all these different situations at work? Even though mine was related to death, it still all somehow came back to the one situation. So if I had a stressful time at work, theoretically, or I had a shit day or shit week, whatever it may be, you had to think of the positives from it. Like, you have a job, you're still getting paid. alright, sometimes you hate your job, sometimes you don't want to be there, it's hard to get up and get out of bed, especially winter days. But you got to keep pushing and persevering, and the good will come. So you do that, and they ask you, and they deconstruct everything for you, and you deconstruct everything for them. So like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 13 or 14, whatever it may be, if you have 2 weeks, your sessions are every 2 weeks. So you do that, and then you put the puzzles together, and they try and work you out, and then once they've worked you out, and you've worked yourself out, then you work on with the counsellor and the psychiatrist. Then they try and work out and help you deal with your emotions. So like, for example, if you go home every night in the shower you cry, or you cry before bed, or whatever it may be, they tell you it's actually alright to cry. People might think, oh, it's stupid if you cry, or I'm weak if I cry. It's not. The counsellor actually specifically told me it's very normal to cry, and the way I'm feeling and the way people are feeling is very normal. So you should be more accepting of it and be more positive instead of negative and thinking, well, why am I like this and stuff like that. So you got to first accept the way you're feeling, which is going to be a big help to you to getting better. So by the end of the 10th session, 11th session, you do another test out of 50 again. This time I scored 13. So 13 is very low. With stress, depression, anxiety, it's very low. It's really good. It's actually below what average is. Average, I think they said, is about 23, 24. People are stressed. People can be slightly depressed, but they still get on with life. So I was at 13, which was really good. And 17, 13, whatever it may be. So it was really good, and I made a big progress. So the whole overall experience was a very positive one, and I highly recommend everyone struggling or stressing out to go see one. I know during COVID times they like to do it virtual or over the phone. Everyone's got a different opinion. Everyone's got a different voice about it. I prefer sitting face to face with someone in an office in 4 walls. At least they can see your body language. You can see their body language. You make eye contact. There's more involvement, I feel. I've had phone calls and Skype and Zoom calls and whatever, and I feel like you didn't get the full 100% benefit from it. So that's just the way I've dealt with it. Everyone's dealt with things differently. Everyone has different counsellors and psychiatrists and psychologists who help them in different ways, but that's one way of dealing with it. That's how I've dealt with it, and I hope you can get on the good side of happiness and deal with life as it comes. There's always going to be shit times. There's always going to be things that hurt us, upset us, but we just have to learn to accept the situation and think, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to deal with this? There's people around me that support me. Don't think financially too. Like if you're going to think financially, oh, the psychiatrist, the counsellor, psychologist is going to cost me $200, $300, $400, whatever it may be, then you're never going to get better. You have to accept that this is a situation. You have to accept that goods cost money, and especially services, and good services cost money. So you must be willing to invest. It's more of an investment. It's an investment into your mental health, not just for you, but for the people around you. People start worrying about you, start stressing about you. And so it's a chain reaction and a flow-on effect. So if you're going to accept that you're upset, that you're going through a hard time, and accept that money's just money and this is an investment for you, for your mental health and the mental health of others around you, then I can guarantee in the long run you'll be better off. So that's my story, and I hope my stories helps other people listening. I hope you get something good from it, positive feedback, and I hope you are one day smiling and thinking, oh, I'm glad I took Jake's advice. I'm glad I listened to him. I'm glad I listened to that podcast. If you have any other issues or whatever, you may post me a message, private message me, especially people in Sydney. I know a few people and I do my research on how to get better. There's still times where you just think, can't be bothered, this is too hard, whatever. Then you got to go back on what you've learned, what you've been told, what you've deconstructed the first time, second time, 10th time, and go back on it and think, how can I fix this in this current situation? So it's happened to me post then, and I'll just go back on the time of what my counsellor said, and it's honestly like, think about it, you deconstruct it, you think about it more, but not to the point where it's going to upset you or make you upset, but to the point where you can accept it, think of a way to deal with it. And then usually, for me personally, I've slept on a few things, woke up next morning, a different person. So it's all like in the mind and how you deal with it. But that's my story, and I hope my story helps you. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I'll be back around in a week's time to discuss other matters around the world, my self-motivation. We can touch up more on this topic if you like. People just comment in the messages, private message me, and then I can take your feedback and find ways of improving it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a good week.